The moon was silver that night, spilling its light over the forest as though trying to uncover every hidden thing. But there was one secret even the moon could not touch. She wore it upon her face, a mask, pale as bone, delicate as porcelain, yet unyielding. No one in the pack had ever seen the girl without it. To the children, she was a walking ghost. To the elders, an omen of shame. To the young wolves, she was simply a mystery they mocked from a safe distance. They called her cursed. They whispered she bore scars too monstrous to show. Some even swore her mask was fused to her skin, as if the goddess herself had bound it there. She said nothing. She never answered the cruel taunts, never defended herself. Silence was her shield and the mask her prison. Yet in the stillness of her solitude, she burned with a fire none of them could see. Behind that porcelain facade were eyes that glowed when the moonlight caught them just right, eyes that had witnessed too much, suffered too long. And beneath her silence lived a truth that could shatter the pack if ever it were revealed. Sometimes at night she would slip into the woods. The mask did not come off even then, but the trees knew her. The shadows welcomed her, and the earth beneath her bare feet pulsed with the kind of power no ordinary wolf could carry. She was not ordinary. She had never been, but secrets are heavy things. Worn too long, they twist into chains, pressing against the heart until the breath itself becomes a burden. She had learned to live with it. She had learned to smile behind the mask, even if no one could see it. She believed her disguise would protect her forever, that if she stayed quiet, hidden, small, no one would ever discover what she was. But fate was never merciful, and the night the Alpha returned, his gaze slicing sharper than the cold wind, she felt her carefully built world tremble. He looked at her as if he could see through porcelain, through silence, through every wall she had raised, and for the first time in years, she feared the mask would not be enough. The pack had not gathered like this in years. Torches burned along the clearing, their flames shivering against the night wind, while wolves in their human skins whispered anxiously. The return of an Alpha always meant change, sometimes salvation, sometimes ruin. Tonight, no one could tell which it would be. At the heart of the circle, the masked girl stood apart, silent in the shadows. Her porcelain disguise caught the firelight, a pale oval among dozens of faces. She had learned long ago to make herself invisible, yet tonight, her pulse betrayed her. It thundered in her chest as the air shifted with the sound of boots on stone. He was here, the Alpha who had been gone for so long. Exiled, whispered some. Training in blood and fire, claimed others. Whatever the truth, it came wrapped in the broad shoulders and hard jawline of the man who stepped into the clearing. His dark hair caught the torchlight, his eyes glinted with cold fire, and every step carried the weight of command. Alpha Kale, the Beta announced, voice cracking with both reverence and unease. The crowd bent their heads. Some bowed, some trembled. The masked girl did neither. She kept her chin level, though her heart quivered like a bird against its cage. Kale's gaze swept the assembly, sharp as a blade, measuring loyalty, weighing worth. When it landed on her, she felt it in her bones. Heat surged through her veins, fierce and unwanted. She gripped her skirts tighter, praying he would look away. He didn't. His eyes narrowed, as if the porcelain mask itself offended him. As if he sensed something beneath it, for one breathless moment, the noise of the gathering dimmed, and the world held only his gaze and her trembling stillness. A murmur rippled through the crowd, the masked one. He's noticed her. Why would he look at her? Another hissed. The Alpha said nothing. His jaw tightened, but he dragged his gaze away, lifting his chin toward the elders. His voice, when it rang out, was deep and commanding. This pack is mine again. You will obey. You will fight. You will bleed if I demand it. But I will not tolerate weakness. Not from any of you. The crowd shivered as his dominance rolled across them like a storm. Yet she, hidden in her mask, felt something else beneath it. An unspoken recognition, a tether tugging at the edge of her soul, and it terrified her. Because if what she felt was real, then the Alpha's return was not just the pack's reckoning. It was hers. The night of the moon ceremony shimmered with cruel beauty. Lanterns hung from the trees, casting golden halos over the gathered wolves. The pack had dressed in silks and silver, their laughter brittle, their anticipation sharp. For beneath the celebration lay a darker tradition, the revelation of fated mates. The masked girl stood at the edge of the circle, hands clasped before her. Her mask reflected the moonlight, making her appear otherworldly, untouchable. She told herself she didn't care who the moon goddess paired her with. After all, who could want a girl whose face was hidden, whose existence was a stain on the pack's pride? The Alpha stood at the center, his posture rigid, his expression carved from stone. When the ritual began, the air thickened. The goddess's power stirred, weaving invisible threads between souls, searching, binding, declaring. Then it happened, the tug, a bond snapping into place, sharp and undeniable. Her breath caught as her chest burned with recognition, her wolf clawing inside her ribcage, and when her eyes lifted, behind porcelain and shadow, Kale's gaze was already locked on hers. The crowd gasped. Whispers hissed like snakes. The masked girl, the Alpha's mate, impossible, a curse, a disgrace. Kale's jaw clenched. For a heartbeat, something flickered in his eyes. Shock, fury, maybe even fear. But then his lips curled and his voice, low and merciless, cut across the clearing. No, the word cracked like a whip. I reject this bond. He declared, his tone cold enough to still the night. The moon goddess must be mistaken. I will not be tied to that. His gaze slashed toward her mask, his voice laced with disdain. The pack erupted. Some laughed, cruel and loud. Others sneered, their whispers sharpened to knives. A few looked away in pity, though none dared speak against him. She stood frozen, her breath locked in her chest, each word carved into her like silver, burning deep. Her wolf howled within, wild and furious, but she forced it down, forced herself still. Her mask hid her tears, but not the shame burning in her throat. And yet, even through the rejection, even through the humiliation, the bond still throbbed inside her like a wound that would not close. She could feel his heartbeat echo in hers, could taste his denial like poison in her mouth. The goddess had chosen, but Kale had severed it, or tried to, because as his voice faded and the pack's laughter swelled, her soul whispered the truth she dared not speak. A mate bond cannot be broken so easily. And this rejection was only the beginning. The ceremony ended in laughter, sharp, cruel, echoing long after the torches were snuffed out. They lingered in her ears like poison, even as she slipped away from the clearing, her steps unsteady. Did you see her face? Oh, wait. You never will. The Alpha was right. She's cursed. No wonder she hides. Their words clung to her like burrs, each one tearing another piece of her away. She kept her head bowed, her mask gleaming faintly in the moonlight as though mocking her. Her throat burned, but she would not cry here, not before them. The forest welcomed her the way the pack never had. She ran, skirts brushing against roots and grass, until the laughter was swallowed by silence. Only the sound of her own heartbeat filled her ears. When she reached the riverbank, her knees gave out. She fell onto the cool earth, her body trembling, her wolf inside her thrashing with rage. How dare he? How dare he deny us? Her claws itched beneath her skin, her teeth ached, her wolf demanding to tear, to claim, to show the Alpha what true power looked like. For a moment she let it surge, her eyes burned with light, brighter, fiercer than any wolf in the pack. Her breath steamed in the cold night air, laced with energy that hummed like lightning. If anyone had seen her then, they would not have dared laugh. They would have bowed, but no one was there. She had made sure of it. She squeezed her eyes shut, forcing the power back down, locking her wolf away. The mask pressed tight against her face, reminding her of the vow she had carried all these years. No one can know, not yet. Her hands trembled as she dipped them into the river, letting the water cool her burning skin. The reflection that stared back was faceless, featureless, porcelain smooth, expressionless. She hated it. She hated what it hid, and yet she needed it. The mask was her shield, her silence, her prison, her secret. Above, the moon glared down, indifferent to her pain, and in the distance she felt him still, the Alpha. His rejection rang inside her chest like a bell that would not stop tolling. Her humiliation had ended in the clearing, but her war was only beginning. The fire in the great hall had burned low, casting the stone walls in restless shadows. The pack elders sat in a circle, their voices hushed, though Cale could hear every word. His senses, sharpened by unease, clung to each syllable. She was chosen by the moon goddess, one muttered, his hands trembling around a goblet of wine. And he rejected her, another whispered, as though the very words might summon disaster. Do you not remember the old prophecy? To spurn the goddess's gift is to invite ruin. The bond is sacred. Cale's jaw clenched as he stood hidden just beyond the doorway. He should have stepped forward, silenced them, reminded them who ruled this pack. But instead, he lingered in the shadows, his chest tight, his heart refusing to steady. Prophecy, curse, the words itched at the back of his mind. He had rejected her. The moment he had seen that mask, that secret she refused to shed, he had felt fury coil in his veins. An alpha could not bind himself to a woman who hid her face, who stirred unease wherever she walked. A leader needed strength, not mystery, pride, not pity, and yet since the moment he'd spoken the words, his wolf had been restless, pacing, snarling inside him. Worse still, the air of the territory had changed. He'd felt it first in the forest, the unsettling prickle of foreign wolves at the borders, rogues, not a few scattered threats, but organized, prowling like shadows just beyond reach, wolves that smelled of blood and hunger, watching, waiting. Perhaps the goddess herself will punish us. One elder breathed, his tone sharp with fear. She will not forgive a rejection so public. Another added, it is said the pack that denies her will bleed. Cale turned sharply, unwilling to hear more. His boots struck the stone as he strode down the corridor, each step echoing the storm within. He would not be cursed. He would not be punished. He had chosen strength for his pack, not weakness, and yet, when he closed his eyes, he saw her mask, pale and unyielding. He felt again that strange pull in his chest, the heat in his blood when his gaze had locked with hers. His wolf growled low inside him. Mine, no. Cale whispered to the empty hall, though the denial rang hollow. Outside, the night howled. Rogues stirred at the border, and for the first time in years, Alpha Cale wondered if even he could control what was coming. The forest was darker than usual that night, the air heavy with warning. The masked girl had slipped into the trees to escape the weight of whispers, seeking solace in the rhythm of her own footsteps. But even in the silence she sensed it. The shift in the air, the stench of blood, rogues, they were close. She stilled, her breath catching, ears straining. And then she heard it, the unmistakable clash of steel, the growl of wolves, and a voice she knew too well. Deep, commanding, now edged with strain, Cale. Her heart twisted, but her body moved before her mind could argue. She sprinted through the underbrush, feet barely touching the earth. Branches tore at her cloak, the mask tight against her skin, but she didn't slow. The clearing opened before her like a wound. 3 rogues circled the alpha, their eyes glowing with hunger. Cale fought with brutal grace, his blade flashing in arcs of silver. But even he was outnumbered, his breath heavy, his arm already streaked with blood. One rogue lunged for his throat. She didn't think, she shifted. Power tore through her, her bones reshaping, her wolf leaping forward in a blur of white and shadow. She slammed into the rogue midair, sending it crashing to the ground with a snarl that shook the trees. Cale staggered back, eyes wide as he saw her. The masked girl, her wolf's form stronger, faster than anything he had expected. She moved with unnatural precision, every strike laced with a power that dwarfed even his. Together they fought. For a moment, instinct bridged the gulf between them, his blade, her fangs, 2 forces moving as one. The rogues fell one by one, their blood soaking into the soil until silence returned. Her chest heaved, her wolf trembling with the effort of restraint. She shifted back, clutching her mask as though it were armor, though cracks of moonlight already revealed glimpses of her true face beneath. Cale stared at her, his chest rising and falling, his jaw clenched as confusion and fury warred in his eyes. You, he growled, voice low, dangerous. What are you? Her lips parted, but no words came. The truth burned on her tongue, but the vow she carried held it back, so she did what she always did. She turned, retreating into the shadows of the trees before he could demand more, but the damage was done. He had seen her, not fully, not yet, but enough to know she was not what she seemed, and that knowledge would haunt him. Cale couldn't sleep. Even after the rogues were dead and the forest fell silent, her presence clung to him like smoke. The girl in the mask, fragile in appearance, yet deadly when the moon touched her. No ordinary wolf fought like that. No ordinary woman hid such fire, and yet she ran from him. His fists tightened around the edge of the table in his quarters. Every instinct screamed she belonged to him, his wolf pacing restlessly inside his chest. But reason whispered a harsher truth. She was a liar. She had secrets deep enough to drown a man, and he had sworn never to trust masks again. Still, he couldn't tear her image from his mind. Far across the village, she sat at her window, hands trembling as she held the mask to her face. Cracks had formed along its edges after the fight, small slivers where her skin showed through. If he had seen too much, if Cale had recognized the mark etched beneath her eye, her life would no longer be hers. Her wolf whispered of him, the alpha, her fated mate. Every time she drew near, her body betrayed her, her pulse quickening, her senses sharpening, the bond tugging like an invisible chain. But what mate could she ever be to him if the truth of her blood was revealed? She touched the mask again, whispering a vow to herself. Better he hates me than destroys me. At dawn, fate conspired to bring them together again. The pack gathered for training, and Cale, though weary, commanded the field with his usual ruthless precision. His gaze swept over the wolves' sparring until it found her. She tried to keep her head low, but his eyes pinned her in place. The memory of her wolf, the way she had fought at his side, haunted him. Step forward, he ordered, voice sharp. Her body locked, the mask cool against her skin. Around them whispers rose, the outcast girl summoned by the alpha. She walked to the center of the ring, her every step a battle against the urge to flee. Cale's stare cut into her. You fought like no wolf I've ever seen, and yet you hide. Why, her throat tightened. Her wolf pushed against her ribs, aching to confess, to surrender to the bond. But she forced a shaky laugh. Perhaps you imagined it. His eyes darkened. His wolf surged to the surface. So close to hers she felt his heat even through the mask. The pull between them was undeniable, an invisible tether sparking like fire. She fought to step back, but her body betrayed her, leaning forward as though drawn by fate itself. Cale's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper, low enough only she could hear. I'll tear away that mask one day, and when I do, you won't be able to hide. Her heart thundered, her mask burning against her skin, because he was right. The forest hadn't healed from the rogue attack. The scent of blood still lingered in the air, mixing with smoke and fear. Yet beneath the surface of the pack's daily life, something darker stirred. Unseen eyes watched from the shadows. A figure cloaked in midnight lingered at the edge of the territory, his wolf pacing with restless hunger. His lips curled into a smile as he caught the faintest whiff of power. Strange, alluring, forbidden. So, the masked one is here. He had been searching for her for years, and now fate had dropped her into the alpha's arms. Back within the heart of the pack, the girl tried to steady herself. The vow Cale had made, his promise to tear away her mask, echoed in her mind. Each time his gaze found her, she felt more exposed, as if the mask itself was crumbling. She sought refuge in silence, but even that betrayed her. At the well, she overheard the other wolves whispering. Why does the alpha look at her like that? She's no one, a stray, or worse. Something else. Her grip on the bucket faltered, water spilling across her feet. She forced her face neutral, but her wolf bristled, restless and uneasy. Something was coming. She could feel it. That night, Cale held counsel with his warriors. The rogues weren't acting alone. He said, voice clipped, someone directs them. His gaze swept the room, hard and unyielding. And I will find out who. Yet his thoughts strayed, always back to her, the masked girl who had fought like no ordinary wolf. His instincts whispered that she was tied to the danger circling his pack. But the bond inside him snarled at the thought of doubting her. Still, he couldn't ignore the truth. Every secret she carried could become a weapon against him. Far from the safety of the pack house, the figure in black knelt by the ashes of the fallen rogues, a cruel grin cutting across his face. They were weak, he muttered, brushing dust from his hand. His eyes gleamed with promise. But she is not, and soon she'll have no choice but to come to me. The wind shifted, carrying the faint howl of wolves in the distance. His smile widened. The alpha thinks he can keep her. He's wrong. She belongs to me. The moon was fat and golden when the pack gathered for training. Spears of silver glinted, and the sound of sparring wolves echoed across the clearing. She lingered at the edge watching, hidden as always, but tonight Cale would not let her hide. "You," his voice cut through the air like a blade, heads turned, every wolf froze, his eyes locked on her mask. "Step forward." Her stomach knotted. She wanted to vanish into the shadows, but the bond dragged her closer, each step heavy with dread. She could feel the whispers crawling across her skin. Why her? She doesn't belong here. She's cursed. Cale tossed a wooden practice blade at her feet. "Show them." She looked at him. Why? Died behind the mask. No. The word was soft, but it echoed like thunder. Yet Cale's expression didn't falter. "You can fight. I saw it the night you saved me. You won't keep hiding." Her fingers trembled as they closed around the hilt. She didn't want this. To reveal herself was to destroy everything she had protected for years. But the pack's laughter pushed her, cutting deeper than any blade. She lunged. The fight was over in seconds. Her movements were a blur. Too fast, too sharp, too strong. She disarmed the beta in a heartbeat and had him flat on the ground, her blade at his throat. Gasps rippled through the crowd, and then her mask slipped. It fell to the dirt with a hollow thud. Silence crashed over the clearing. Her face was no longer hidden. Pale, luminous eyes burning like twin flames of silver. Power shimmered under her skin, her wolf pressing against the surface. Cale stared, stunned into stillness. She was no cursed stray, no scarred girl. She was something more. The beta scrambled back, his eyes wide with fear. "She's not one of us." He spat. "She's dangerous." The pack recoiled, uncertain whether to bow or to bare their teeth. Her chest heaved, shame and fury colliding inside her. Cale stepped forward, his voice low but unshakable. Enough. For a heartbeat, his eyes softened as they met hers. The bond between them pulsed with raw heat, undeniable now that her mask was gone. But before she could breathe, a howl split the air. Deep, mocking, close. The enemy's shadow had come too near. Her mask lay forgotten at her feet, and the truth could never be hidden again. The clearing still buzzed with the memory of her unmasking. The wolves had scattered into restless whispers, suspicion trailing her like a shadow she couldn't shake. Even as Cale's command silenced their jeers, doubt festered in every glance that lingered on her. That night, she tried to retreat into the quiet of her small quarters. She pressed her palms against the rough wood of the door, breath trembling. The mask was gone, her secret was laid bare, and now she feared nothing would ever be the same. A knock came, soft, too soft. "Cale," she whispered, hope sparking despite herself. She opened the door, only to find the beta standing there, his smile sharp as a blade. "You played us well," he said, stepping inside without invitation. His eyes gleamed with venom, all this time hiding your face, hiding your power. "Tell me, how many rogues have you whispered to in the dark?" Her stomach dropped. "I never, liar." He was suddenly close, his hand gripping her wrist, cruel and tight. "The Alpha may be blinded by the bond, but I see the truth. You're the reason we bleed. You're the curse." Her wolf rose in a snarl, fire licking at the edge of her vision. But before she could fight, a bitter, smelling cloth pressed against her mouth. Her world tilted, blurred, and fell into blackness. When she woke, the forest pressed cold around her. Rope bit into her wrists, silver, laced, searing her skin. She gasped, choking back a cry. Figures moved in the shadows, rogues, their eyes glinting with malice. The beta's voice slithered through the night. "See how they welcome you. You're theirs, not ours." She thrashed, fury and terror tangling. Why betray your Alpha?" He crouched beside her, his grin cruel. "Because Cale is weak. He chose you instead of his pack. But with you gone, the rogues and I will finish what should have been done years ago." The rogues growled in agreement, their circle tightening. She felt the bond deep within her chest scream for Kale, but no one came, not yet. The beta leaned close, his whisper a knife against her ear. You were never meant to be Luna, you were meant to be destroyed. And as the rogues dragged her deeper into the shadows, her wolf howled in her soul, half in rage, half in desperate plea. Somewhere far away, Kale's own wolf jolted awake with a snarl. He felt her pain as if it were his own. The hunt had begun, the night split with a roar. Kale's wolf thundered through the forest, every muscle driven by the mate bond's searing pull. He could taste her fear on the wind, smell the burn of silver against her skin. Each second stretched like torture. The rogues hadn't been careful. Their trail was heavy with blood and arrogance. He followed it to a clearing where firelight danced against the trees, and there she was, bound to a post, her wrists blistered by silver cords, her body trembling but unbroken. Rogues circled her, their laughter sharp, their claws flashing in the fire's glow. And at their center, smug and smiling, stood the beta. You came, the beta sneered as Kale stalked into the firelight. How predictable. Kale's wolf surged, golden eyes blazing. Release her, he snarled, his voice carrying the weight of alpha command. The rogues only laughed. Steel clashed first. A rogue lunged, silver blade gleaming. Kale met him midair, his claws ripping through flesh. Hot blood sprang across the dirt. Another came, then another. The clearing erupted in chaos. Gnarls, screams, fire. She struggled against her bonds, eyes wide with fear as she watched him fight. His movements were pure fury, every strike born not of duty, but of desperate, savage love. The beta stepped closer to her, his knife pressed against her throat. One more step, Alpha, he hissed, and she dies. Kale froze, chest heaving, blood dripping from his claws, his wolf clawed at his insides, screaming to protect her. Why her? The beta spat. She's nothing, a cursed stray who will destroy us all. Kale's gaze burned. She is mine. With a sudden snarl, he feinted left, then hurled his dagger straight across the fire. It struck the beta's arm, knocking the blade free. She gasped, and in that heartbeat, Kale was there. His claws shredded the ropes, tearing the silver from her wrists. She collapsed into his arms, her body shaking against his. But the beta wasn't finished. With a roar, he lunged, silver spear raised high. Kale twisted, shielding her with his body. The spear bit deep into his shoulder, the sting of silver searing his flesh. He gritted his teeth, his arms tightening around her. Her scream tore the night in two, and in that sound, raw, wild, agonized, her wolf surged forward, breaking through the last of her restraint. Power exploded from her like fire across the clearing, knocking rogues to the ground. The beta's eyes widened in shock. The mask was gone. The truth could no longer be contained. The clearing reeked of blood and silver. Rogues lay scattered, groaning or lifeless, while Kale stood battered but unbowed, his wolf snarling just beneath the surface. His shoulder burned from the spear wound, silver eating at his flesh, yet his arms remained locked around her. She trembled in his hold, her power still flickering across her skin, silver fire glowing faintly in her veins. The wolves who had followed him into battle arrived then, fanning out around the clearing. Their eyes widened at the sight of her, maskless, radiant, terrifyingly powerful. One voice broke the silence. She's not one of us. Another growl followed. She's the reason rogues keep coming. She'll destroy us all. The pack's fear rippled through the night, spreading like wildfire. Soon, half the warriors had shifted, their teeth bared, not at Kale, but at her. She stiffened against him, eyes wide with horror. They'll never accept me. The beta, bloodied but alive, seized his chance. Crawling to his knees, he spat his venom into the crowd. Look at her. She's cursed. She brings only death. If Kale keeps her, he'll drag us all into ruin. Kale's wolf surged, gold and fury flaring in his eyes. He slammed the beta back to the ground with a snarl, his hand tight around his throat. You betrayed your alpha. You betrayed your pack. You will never speak again. The crowd stilled as Kale's claws hovered over the traitor's chest. But then a voice, an elder, rose above the tension. Alpha, the girl must be exiled, or you will lose us. The words struck like a blade. She drew in a shaky breath, whispering so only he could hear. They're right. Let me go, save your pack. Kale froze. His pride screamed at the insult, but deeper than pride was the bond. raw, unrelenting, eternal. He looked at her, really looked, the luminous power trembling beneath her skin, the way her wolf pressed forward in defiance and the tears she tried to hide. His heart knew the truth. She was not a curse. She was his. Straightening, he released the beta with a growl and turned to face his pack. His voice rang out, commanding, unbreakable. She is mine, my mate, my Luna. Any who defy her, defy me. The silence shattered into chaos. Wolves argued, some growling in fury, others bowing reluctantly. But Kale stood tall, bloodied, unwavering, his hand gripping hers. And in that moment, under the unforgiving moon, the pack saw their alpha not as a leader divided, but as a wolf who would burn the world before he let fate be stolen from him. The pack's protests still echoed in the night, but she barely heard them. Her pulse thundered as Kale's declaration wrapped around her like a shield. My mate, my Luna. The words were fire, terrifying and glorious, but the ground itself seemed to stir, a cold wind cutting through the clearing. The moon burned brighter, and her wolf pressed hard against her skin as if straining to be freed. The elder stepped forward, trembling. His voice carried the weight of old prophecy. It begins again. The bloodline of the silver wolf. Gasps rippled through the crowd. She stumbled back, confusion tearing through her. What are you talking about? The elder's eyes were grave. You are the last descendant of the line cursed centuries ago, hidden beneath masks, hiding from fate, until your mate accepts you before all. Her breath caught. The pieces fell into place. The endless whispers, the strange pull of power she could never suppress, the mask her guardian had forced upon her since childhood. Not protection, not shame, a prison forged by curse. Kale's hand tightened around hers, grounding her, and if I accept her, the elder's gaze flicked to the shimmering glow beneath her skin. Then the curse will break, but only if your vow is true. The beta hissed from where he knelt, bloodied but defiant. Don't you see? She's dangerous. If she's unmasked, her power will consume us all. Her body shook, energy crackling, the wolf inside her thrashing against its cage. She could feel it. If Kale turned away now, if he let fear rule him, the curse would devour her. Her voice broke as she whispered, Don't do this unless you mean it. I'd rather die than live as your pity. Kale stepped closer, cupping her face in blood, stained hands, his eyes burning gold. Pity, his voice was low, fierce. No, you are fire, you are fury, you are mine. The bond roared to life as he bent his forehead to hers, a vow spilling from his lips, primal and unshakable. I claim you before moon and pack, as my mate, as my Luna, as my equal. Light burst from her skin, flooding the clearing in silver brilliance. The mask's power, every chain, every shackle, shattered with a sound like breaking glass. Her wolf surged free, magnificent, radiant, silver fur blazing like starlight. The pack fell to their knees in awe. Even the wind seemed to bow, and for the first time in her life, she was no longer hidden. She was no longer cursed. She was home. Dawn bled across the horizon, washing the forest in soft gold. Smoke from the battle still lingered, but the clearing no longer felt haunted. It felt reborn. She stood beside Kale, her silver wolf now settled within her, no longer a raging storm, but a steady, burning flame. The pack knelt before them, one by one bowing their heads, not in fear, but in reverence. The elder's voice carried through the morning hush. The curse is broken. The silver wolf walks among us once more, and she is Luna now. Her throat tightened. For so long, she had been nothing but whispers, a masked shadow in the corner of every gathering, a ghost they mocked or feared, and now she stood unveiled, their gazes filled not with ridicule, but awe. Kale lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss against her skin. His golden eyes never wavered. You were never meant to hide. He murmured so only she could hear. Fate didn't curse you. Fate gave you to me. Her heart ached, full and fragile. And you still chose me, even when it could have cost you everything. He smiled, fierce and soft all at once. I would choose you 1,000 times, even if it cost me the world. The pack howled then, a chorus that shook the trees. Wolves raised their muzzles to the dawn, voices weaving into a single song of acceptance, of surrender. Her wolf rose within her, answering the call, her howl pure silver threading through theirs. For the first time, she wasn't alone in the sound. She belonged. The beta, bound and broken, was dragged away in silence. His betrayal would be dealt with, but it no longer mattered. His venom had been silenced by something stronger than fear, unity. Cale turned to her, his arms sliding around her waist, his lips brushing her temple. From this day forward, he said, "You are mine, not hidden, not cursed, my Luna, my queen." She closed her eyes, leaning into him, the warmth of his vow wrapping around her like the dawn itself. And as the sun crowned the sky, fate's embrace settled over them both. Two wolves bound not by chains of curse or pride, but by love fierce enough to break the darkness. The alpha and his silver wolf, together at last.